Hello there, I'm Dr. Jim. Thanks for watching this video. I have a very interesting topic for you today, and it's based on my writings in Living Longer and Stronger with CBD, my latest book, where I scan between 500 to 600 medical studies looking at the effectiveness of CBD for various physical, emotional, mental, and neurological disorders. Today, our topic is schizophrenia and CBD. And I've always been fascinated by schizophrenia. As a matter of fact, very early in my career, I worked with a team of psychiatrists, and we went in and provided psychiatric services and care to countless group homes, various nursing homes, facilities, for individuals with severe mental illness. And so I got to see a lot of the symptoms and the behaviors, and I got to hear a lot of how the thinking process went. It was really fascinating. I learned a lot about, obviously, medication and whatnot very early on for treating schizophrenia. So I've heard this many times before, perhaps you haven't. Schizophrenia is the Holy Grail of psychiatry. And the Holy Grail is something that, people have been looking for. Although I watched on television, a guy thinks he found it. But anyway, researchers and explorers are looking all over the world for the Holy Grail. And it keeps eluding them. They can't find it. Well, we call schizophrenia the Holy Grail of psychiatry because it's mysterious. It continues to stump psychiatry. And psychiatry is endlessly looking for causes of schizophrenia and for better treatments. Now, meds have been around for a long time, for decades, but they all come with some pretty heavy side effects. Researchers in the field of cannabinoids and natural medicines have some pretty interesting results. They've been looking at the effects of CBD for schizophrenia. And we'll get to that. But let me now give you a scope of the illness. Okay? Schizophrenia is one of the leading causes of disability in the United States. 75% of people diagnosed are between the ages of 16 to 25, so earlier in life. There's a type, though, that affects people much later in life, and it's called late life schizophrenia. So people would be diagnosed after the age of 50 to 60. Roughly 21 million people around the world have schizophrenia, and that's 1.1% of the entire world's population. And 3.5 million people in the United States have the disorder. In terms of prognosis, are they going to get better? 25% of people with schizophrenia will recover completely, and that's the good news. 50% will improve over the course of their lives. And the bad news is 25% will remain chronically ill for the rest of their lives, and they'll never recover. Besides the toll it takes on people's lives, schizophrenia is a very expensive disease, ranging in the ballpark of $32 billion up to $65 billion per year. So another sad statistic, in fact, is somewhere between 33% to 50% of homeless people probably do have schizophrenia, and the majority of them will never be diagnosed. They'll never seek treatment. They'll never be diagnosed, and therefore they will never be treated. So the gold standard source of information on schizophrenia and other mental disorder comes from the American Psychiatric Association DSM-5 chapter, which is a brand new title, by the way, Schizophrenia Spectrum and Other Psychotic Disorders. This is the first time that the American Psychiatric Association has actually considered schizophrenia as a spectrum disorder. Some of the key features include delusions, hallucinations, disorganized thinking and speech, grossly disorganized or abnormal motor behavior. And you may have heard there are positive and negative symptoms of schizophrenia, and that doesn't mean good or bad. Positive symptoms mean the presence of behaviors not based in reality. things like hallucinations and delusions, confused thoughts, disorganized speech, trouble concentrating, and various movement disorders. Those are positive. Negative, on the other hand, meaning a lack of functioning in thoughts and behaviors, include lack of motivation or pleasure, little to no eye contact, inappropriate emotional responses, poor hygiene, trouble with speech, difficulty carrying out activities of daily living, and poor follow through or initiation of projects or activities. Now, as I said in the beginning, there are lots of treatments for schizophrenia, and the rule of thumb in psychiatry, and I saw it for 7 years with about a half a dozen psychiatrists that I worked with, they prescribe medication and therapy at the same time, and there's a good reason for doing that. If the individual has a biological basis, biochemical basis in the brain, neurotransmitters are imbalanced, dopamine, glutamate, norepinephrine, serotonin, so on and so forth, the thought is that the medications are going to work or not work in some cases, but at least we're going to give it a shot. We're going to try the meds. If the majority of the symptoms of schizophrenia are due to that biochemical imbalance, the meds are going to help. If there are other symptoms that are more cognitive or behavioral learned, then talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, psychodynamic therapy, whatever the case is, you combine meds and therapy. Now it's like attacking symptoms from two different angles. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't work. So in terms of medications, there are lots of antipsychotic drugs, antidepressants, mood stabilizers, anti-anxiety meds, which are called anxiolytics. And the mantra, the mode of operating in psychiatry is start low and go slow. Lowest dose possible to get some good effects. And let's go slow and give it time. Most of these medications take 10, 12 weeks minimum, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. Everybody's brain chemistry is quite different. Now, in terms of extreme psychotic behaviors and actions, hospitalization might be required. And I remember a lot of pink slips back in my day with the psychiatrists where the individual was just completely out of control. They were a danger to themselves, a danger to other people. Perhaps they were very violent, and they had to be admitted into a hospital, psychiatric hospital, to help stabilize the individual, get them treated, maybe start a new treatment regimen, and then get them back into the community as quickly as possible. Some people will require lifelong treatment, lifelong services, but the ultimate goal of any treatment is to reduce and manage symptoms using the lowest possible doses of medication so that the person can live their best life with the disorder. Okay. Now, here are some research findings on CBD, the endocannabinoid system, and schizophrenia. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of great research. And if you're interested, after this video is over, don't stop. Go to googlescholar.com. That's where you're going to find all of the research-based, peer-reviewed articles out of prestigious journals all over the world, white papers and so on and so forth, academic papers. And Google schizophrenia and CBD or CBD and schizophrenia and see what you come up with, because there's always new studies coming out. That's one of the things that kills me about writing a book, taking so long to write a book. There's new stuff that's coming out all the time. That's why we all keep writing, I guess. So it's hard to believe, but research looking at CBD for schizophrenia, psychotic disorders, actually goes back to the mid-90s. And that's kind of hard to believe because I never suspected that anyone was looking at CBD back then for any mental disorders. So they were looking, some researchers were specifically looking at anandamide. And this is a fatty acid neurotransmitter, and it might play a very important role in the treatment of schizophrenia. Anandamide is sometimes called the bliss molecule or the happy molecule, and it's responsible for motivation, memory, control of movements, and higher thought processes, and actually may restore cognitive balance and regulate perceptual processes. Now think about all those things, and then think about the symptoms that I just discussed, the positive and negative symptoms of schizophrenia. So anandamide has become pretty important. Some researchers have found that anandamide levels of untreated people diagnosed with schizophrenia were 8 times higher than in people without schizophrenia. That's significant. Anandamide appears to increase in people with acute schizophrenia as a way for the body to compensate for the disorder. It's almost like our autoimmune system kicking in when there's an infection. CBD has been found to increase anandamide signaling, which then helps to manage several symptoms of schizophrenia. So that's really good news. It's encouraging. So dopamine, for many, many years, and this is the way I was trained and educated, the dopamine hypothesis. For years, researchers, science, doctors have been telling us that there's too much dopamine activity. Dopamine is really behind the symptoms that we see in schizophrenia. So investigators from Germany found a complicated interaction between the system that produces dopamine, and it's called the dopaminergic system, and the endocannabinoid system, which is our internal cannabinoid system. Dopamine has long been thought to be behind the symptoms of schizophrenia and has been called the dopamine hypothesis. But what we're learning is the interaction between the two systems, dopaminergic system, endocannabinoid system, may actually play a larger part in the development of schizophrenia. Now that's interesting. That's really interesting. CB1 receptors, okay? We know of a couple receptors. There are researchers out there saying that they perhaps have found a third one. Again, brand new stuff's coming down the line all the time. But CB receptors receive molecules from CBD-based products that we ingest. And the CBD acts as a key that unlocks these receptors within the endocannabinoid system to do their work, to bring balance, to minimize symptoms, so on and so forth. Listen to this. A scientific team from Montreal believed that a disturbance within the endocannabinoid system could lend information about the development of schizophrenia. CB1 receptors, for example, are found in great quantities in several parts of the brain associated with schizophrenia, including the prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, and basal ganglia. That's an interesting finding. Now, CBD in general has a lot of different effects. It's an anti-inflammatory, it's an anti-anxiety, it's this, it's that, it's the other thing. It's also an antipsychotic. Australian scientists found some of the most consistent antipsychotic properties of CBD, which improved several areas of schizophrenia, including neuropsychological performance and a reduction in the negative symptoms that I referred to earlier. They report that CBD has a restorative effect on neurotransmitter dysfunction in schizophrenia. Now, inflammation is a symptom underlying so many disorders, physical, mental, neurological, you name it. There's now information connecting inflammation to schizophrenia. Listen to this. It's well known that chronic inflammation plays a key role in numerous illnesses and diseases, including Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and some cancers. It's now thought that inflammation also is an underlying cause of schizophrenia. Studies have shown increased blood concentration of inflammatory cytokines. Cytokines are essential inflammation regulating molecules that also play an important role in the immune system. Those were found in people diagnosed with schizophrenia. There you have it. Here are some other general findings that we are aware of. It's also established that CBD has powerful anti-inflammatory and neuroprotective qualities. It provides anti-anxiety and antidepressant effects and has been found effective for sleep regulation and hormone balancing properties. Some experts say that CBD has a pharmacological profile similar to antipsychotic drugs, but without the side effects. That's always a plus. Here are my final thoughts. Schizophrenia has been and seems to persist as a very difficult, mysterious mental disorder to treat. Psychiatry has worked on this for a long time. There's much unknown about the disorder, as much as there is known about the disorder. While traditional medicines have developed and pharmaceuticals have been used, many people with schizophrenia will continue to suffer. Sometimes they even suffer more on the meds, on the medications and pharmaceuticals. Although more research needs to be done, CBD, we do know, is safe, it's well tolerated, it has no serious side effects, and best of all, it is showing good results in symptom management and quality of life for people with schizophrenia. I'm Dr. Jim. Thank you for your time. Keep coming back for more. Thank you for watching the video. And I'd like to show you my new book, Living Longer and Stronger with CBD. It took me about a year and a half to write as I scanned hundreds of articles in prestigious journals, peer-reviewed medical studies, examining the effects of CBD for various physical conditions, emotional and mental issues, and neurodegenerative conditions. And I condensed all of those findings into one book. I believe that there's something in here for everyone. So if you're interested, follow the link to the book on Amazon. Thank you so much.